The recommendations are to rein in U.S. collection of what's called metadata, the phone logs of all Americans, so their privacy can be protected. The 300-page report urges a limit on the collection of these records because of a lurking danger of abuse. The National Security Agency's programs have grown since the terror attacks of September 2001, benefiting from advances in technology. The panel suggests that private providers, not the NSA, store the phone records. John Negroponte was the country's first ever director of national intelligence.
I think that whatever we do, I think the president needs to try and be sure that we don't undercut the effectiveness of this surveillance, because we mustn't lose sight of the fact that it can be very useful, and these techniques have in the past helped us avert terrorist attacks.
The presidential panel found that bulk phone records were helpful in stopping terror attacks, but the information could have been gained elsewhere. The report says the data was most helpful in disproving the connection between known terrorist groups and alleged co-conspirators inside the U.S. President Obama says he will review the recommendations during his holiday vacation in Hawaii.
Part of what's been interesting about this whole exercise is recognizing that in a virtual world, some of these boundaries don't matter anymore. And just because we can do something doesn't mean we necessarily should.
President Obama is under no obligation to accept the entire report. He can choose which recommendations to implement, and some will need to be approved by Congress.
This is not the end.
Amy Stepanovich calls the report surprising and a huge step forward. She is with the Electronic Privacy Information Center.
Now we have to keep our eyes open and see if they're actually going to be put into place.
The report suggests extending to foreigners the same federal privacy protections given to Americans. It also says the president and senior advisors, not intelligence officials, should approve any spying on foreign leaders, and that the benefits should be weighed against possible consequences. This is to avoid embarrassments, like earlier this year with German Chancellor Angela Merkel, when it was revealed the U.S. had tapped her cell phone. Negroponte says enough time has passed since 9/11 to look at narrowing surveillance.
This is the kind of consideration that has to be weighed. Protection of privacy, diplomatic sensitivity versus effectiveness in combating terrorism. And there's no question that there's sort of a pendulum that's swinging here a bit more towards the privacy and diplomatic side.
Just days before the release of the recommendations, a federal judge ruled that bulk collection of phone data is unconstitutional. Analysts think that new ruling, coupled with this surveillance report, will move the president and Congress to make substantial changes. In Washington, Carolyn Presutti, VOA News.